Good morning. Welcome to the presentation from Jack Yakub on contractor work health and safety compliance and site safety. Now, before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today, the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people and the Kulin Nation, and pay respects to the elders past and present. I'd like to extend all my respects to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people. Now, good morning and thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. Today I'll be doing my presentation on contractor work health and safety compliance and site safety within the construction industry. Now, contractors, they play a significant role in our industry. Me, myself, coming from construction industry, mainly in concrete and structural, I get to deal with a lot of these contractors, and they play a significant role in construction sites, and they deal with like specialized work that usually we have to outsource because you can't mainly find them on site, or they're very skilled people and they're highly effective at what they do. Now, as someone that works in structural concrete, I regularly work alongside contractors such as electricians, crane operators, steel fixers, concrete pumpers, and because of this, it's important that everyone understands their responsibility and works safely together. The objective of this presentation is to explain contractor responsibilities, discuss common workplace hazards, and explain contractor inductions and safety requirements, discuss their swims, and explain how contractors' compliance is monitored and how everyone safely works alongside and gets the job done in the time frame that is required. Okay, now moving on. So what is a contractor? So a contractor is a person or a company engaged to provide a service to an organization or a construction project or a big build, something that we specialize in. So contractors are often used to provide your specialized skills, usually something that is outsourced, not within the company, someone that has really great skills, amazing at their job, and really know what they're doing safely, These people can be your traffic controllers, your electricians, surveyors, your crane operators, and your highly skilled engineers that can do stuff that the regular average Joe can't really do, And all these contractors are not direct employees, such as my company for IND. They are still required to work effectively amongst management, and is important because these contractors often work with employees and subbies, and means everyone must communicate, we must all get along, we must all follow our swims and cooperate to maintain a safe workplace. Okay, now work health and safety responsibilities. Now, workplace health and safety is a shared responsibility for everyone that works in the industry together and whatnot. So employers have a duty to provide a safe working environment, safe systems of work, adequate training, information, instruction, and even supervision. So employees must also identify workplace hazards and implement appropriate control measures. Contractors also have responsibilities. They must follow workplace procedures, comply with safe work method statements, your SWIMs. They must wear the required PPE, use safety equipment, report hazards or incidents absolutely immediately for the safety of everyone. Workers should always take responsibility, care for their own health and safety, their tools as well as the safety of others, and may be affected by their own actions. They really need to take care, make sure that it doesn't happen. And when everyone understands these responsibilities, workplace risk can significantly be reduced, almost brought to a minimal, and hopefully everyone gets home safely. No injuries and no dramas. Okay, now moving on, guys. So we're going to be talking about contractor inductions now. So before commencing work, it is required for everyone to be inducted onto a work site. Now, contractors are required, subcontractors and everyone that is on site, to do this induction. The purpose of the induction is to ensure that contractors understand specific hazards and safety requirements in every workplace. That way we can minimize injuries, look after people, make sure everything is done right in the correct manner. The topics commonly covered during induction include site rules, emergency procedures, evacuation routes, first aid arrangements, hazard reporting processes, PPE requirements, and site access procedures. Now, contractors are also informed about site-specific hazards that may exist. Modern induction should also address your psychological hazards such as workplace stress, your fatigue. A lot of people are so overworked in my industry. Bullying is a factor. There's harassment. There's mental health support services. These are very important. A lot of people often, resort to drugs and alcohol, and not a good thing for anyone. So it's stuff that really needs attention and care, and it's a good thing that these inductions help contractors understand what is expected of them before work and reduce the likelihood of any incidents occurring on site, and just generally looking after everyone and making sure everything goes how it should be swimmingly and everyone gets home safely. It's mainly a topic we always discuss in many inductions and before we get onto site in our pre-start meetings and whatnot. Okay, so the next slide we'll be going through is common construction hazards. Now, there are very many, so let's get through these. So, construction sites contain so many hazards that contractors may encounter during their work activities. Now, some of these hazards may include working from heights, obviously using your safety harnesses and lanyards at all times. There's manual handling, mobile plant, equipment, slips, trips, falls. There's noise exposure, industrial deafness is really a thing. There's dust exposure, masks are really required. Silicosis, silica dust, something we really have to deal with. There's falling objects. We've had bars fall from cranes, can really destroy people, There's reinforcing steel, there's crane lifts, there's pumping, operations, hoses can explode, very dangerous stuff, can result in very bad stuff. An example was a worker can suffer serious injury if they enter exclusion zones that they're not supposed to, under concrete pours. It's important that we really work and follow our procedures, move around plant equipment and in the required zones, listen to your traffic managers and follow and implement all the plans that they put forward, So hazard identifications and risk assessments are very critical in steps in preventing injuries and ensuring safe work practices at all times. Okay, now going on to one of probably the most important things on site, obviously, is your PPE requirements, your personal protective equipment. Now, your PPE is used, to reduce the risk of any injuries or hazards that can't completely be eliminated, but we can minimize them as best we can. So the most common used construction site PPE probably include, your hard hats, your boots, your mask, your safety goggles or glasses, your gloves, your hearing protection. These are very important, and mainly your high visibility clothing, just to make sure that everyone can see you on site, especially when you're working in winter. It's very dark, and make sure you stand out and glow in the dark, even though you look horrible, it's for your own safety and it's great. And these contractors must inspect their PPE before use. They got to wear it correctly. A lot of people rock up on site, they're wearing black jumpers, and it's a big no-no. They get upset when they get kicked off site, but it is what it is. We all got a job to do, and you got to do the right thing at the end of the day. You got to maintain it, keep it in good condition, replace it when it's damaged. So like a hard hat, for instance, it helps protect workers from falling objects. Safety glasses can prevent eye injuries, especially like when you're grinding steel. I've had many a time stuff fly in my eye, wearing masks. I'm currently always jackhammering or cutting concrete with sawdust, and you just don't want that stuff in your lungs. That's horrible. It's very dangerous. Silicosis isn't a joke, and yeah, just all got to look after each other, do the right thing. Okay, now moving on to probably one of the most important things on a work site, and that is your SWMS. So your Safe Work Method Statements. And they're very highly important documents that everyone must follow. And they're required to be enforced, especially when, using high risk work, which is mainly the whole construction industry. Now, SWMS identify workplace hazards, assess risks, and outline the control measures required to perform a job very safely. SWMS are usually required for such activities as you're working from heights, operating your machinery. Your excavation works is a very important one, especially when you're working on big builds. You're going 1 to 4 to 5 to 6 levels under. You're excavating under the ground. You could collapse. You could really dangerous stuff. And I've had many fatalities every year in the industry, and they really can be avoided by following SWMS. They're usually the ones that don't follow SWMS, do something stupid, get very complacent, just drop the ball for 1 minute and you're in a toolbox, some bloke's passed away, and it's horrible, So before commencing any of the works, these contractors, employers, even foremen, they must read all the SWMS, go through the relevant tasks, see how you're going to tackle it, make sure it's done right, if the work conditions may change or new hazards are identified, it's important you review these SWMS, update them, deal with all the safety blokes, all the protocols, and get them right, and then review them in a toolbox, and then reiterate them to everyone, all the workers, and go ahead from there. Okay, now moving on. So monitoring compliance. Now this is an important one, and it must be monitored very regularly to ensure workplace safety requirements are being followed. So there are several methods in which we use in our industry. One of the main ones is your toolbox meetings, your daily pre-starts, your safety walks, your permit systems, and review of hazard and incident reports, which quite frequently. So our safety inspector is required to do 2 safety walks a day on site. He's a very busy bloke. We get one of the big bosses come down every Wednesday. They do a massive safety walk as well, and everything is jotted down into a book, and every hazard that's identified is rectified as quick as possible, and making sure that everything is safe, the site's operational, and no incidents or very minimal, and a lot less injuries, and everyone's happy, really. So main thing is to communicate regularly between the contractors and the site managers. And it's important because it allows the issues to be addressed before they result in an injury or even anything more serious. Got to monitor this compliance, and it's about finding faults. And when you find the faults, a lot easier to identify them, and the best thing is you ensure everyone returns home safely to their loved ones at the end of the day, and that's the main thing. We all just want to go home to our loved ones, do our job, and that's it. Do what's required of us. Okay, now the total opposite of what we just discussed. Now, this is the consequence of non-compliance. So to fail to comply with WHS requirements can seriously have severe consequences. It's a horrible thing. It might include, injuries to workers, damage to equipment, the project itself might suffer delays, might suffer fines, impact people's jobs, definitely not a good thing, legal action, damage to the company's reputation, result in redundancies, and not a good thing for anyone, to be honest, and the impact of the workplace incidents can extend beyond injured personal people or co-workers or families or project schedules and the organization as a whole. So it's important to maintain compliance with workplace health and safety requirements, and we've got to make sure that everything is done in the right manner. It is our job, as future safety inspectors and whatnot, officers, and make sure all these rules are followed, everything to a T, and really minimize any dramas or incidents or hazards or reports, and make sure everyone's kept in the jobs and everything is done accordingly and everyone's happy, from management to workers to everyone above and in between. All right, so another important one we're going to talk about is contractor management, and mainly, the benefits of a good contractor management. So the effective contractors management provides many benefits for the organization and the workers as a whole. These benefits include safer workplaces, improved communications, better productivity, and fewer incidents, improved compliance with legislations, and better outcomes as a general for the company and for workers, for themselves, their self-esteem, everything in a general, manner. So, and when these contractors receive effective instructions, they tend to understand their responsibilities a lot better. They work more effectively. They're actually more happy in general, to be honest, and they follow procedure. Projects are more likely to be completed on time, safely, in a good manner, and even within a budget. Good contractor management also helps create a positive workplace culture where safety is viewed and everyone's responsible for what they do and they just get it done. You get the tick of approval, everyone's happy, everyone goes home, and a lot of people are a lot less depressed and happy to go to work, because it is a tough job, and it can be very draining if you don't love what you're doing. So it's important to keep that up. All right, guys, now, so in conclusion, contractors' work health and safety compliance is an essential part of the workplace safety within the construction industry, mainly in every industry, but let's keep it to my one for now. So contractors must understand their responsibilities, follow workplace procedures, wear the appropriate PPE, do the right thing, behave in the right manner, comply with your SWIMs, report hazards when identified. Employers must provide safe systems of work, effective induction, supervision, ongoing monitoring, and contractor compliances. And by working together, we can, as employers and contractors, reduce workplace risks, improve safety outcomes, and create safe workplaces for everyone. That's the most important thing, and make sure everyone is doing the right thing in a safely manner, enjoying work, going home to their loved ones, and happy days. Everyone's happy. The boss is happy, you're happy, we're happy, all go home. Now, thank you for hearing me out for this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.